Do you worry about Republic coming and shouting things
Everyone has a right to think what they want.
And I felt, you're losing people every single time you have those headlines. We all get that there's a really big urgent message.
There are moments inside the British royal family that never make the official press releases. Moments that happen behind closed doors, in private wings of centuries-old estates, in quiet conversations between men and women who understand that what they say, and what they do not say, carries enormous consequence. This is a story about one of those moments. It is a story about property, about inheritance, about loyalty, and about a tension that has been building inside the House of Windsor for years. And at the center of it are two names that have never sat entirely comfortably together: Prince William, the Prince of Wales and Duke of Cornwall, and Tom Parker Bowles, the son of Queen Camilla. To understand why this situation matters, why it has reportedly caused genuine anger inside royal circles, you first need to understand something about how royal property actually works. Because the British monarchy operates two entirely separate categories of estate, and confusing them is a mistake that even informed observers regularly make. The first category is what most people picture when they think of royal real estate: Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, the Palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh. These are crown properties. They belong not to any individual member of the royal family, but to the institution of the monarchy itself. They pass from sovereign to sovereign automatically. No king or queen owns them personally. No member of the family can sell them, gift them, or make private decisions about their use without going through formal constitutional channels. They are, in every meaningful sense, national assets held in trust. The second category is far more personal, far less publicly scrutinized, and, as this story demonstrates, far more prone to generating private conflict. These are the private estates, properties purchased with personal funds or inherited through direct family lines, governed by different rules entirely. Sandringham in Norfolk, Balmoral in Scotland, and the property at the heart of this story, Highgrove House in Gloucestershire. These estates sit outside the Crown's formal holdings. They can be bought, sold, and passed down according to the wishes and legal structures of the individuals who hold them. And it is precisely here, in this quieter world of private royal property, where some of the most significant and most sensitive decisions in the modern monarchy have been made. Highgrove House sits in the rolling Gloucestershire countryside, a handsome Georgian property surrounded by approximately 900 acres of farmland and meticulously maintained gardens. The house itself is elegant without being extravagant. But it is the gardens that have made Highgrove genuinely remarkable. Grounds that King Charles III shaped over 4 decades according to a deeply personal vision of organic farming, environmental stewardship, and traditional craftsmanship. Every hedgerow, every kitchen garden, every wildflower meadow at Highgrove reflects the values and the aesthetic sensibility of the man who created them. In a life that has been lived largely in public, the gardens at Highgrove represent something genuinely private, a creative legacy as personal as anything Charles has ever put his name to. Charles first acquired Highgrove in 1980, the year his engagement to Lady Diana Spencer was announced, and the search was underway for a country home befitting the young couple who would one day lead the British monarchy. The property was purchased from the estate of Maurice Macmillan for approximately £800,000. Crucially, the purchase was made through the Duchy of Cornwall, the vast, ancient landholding that provides the Prince of Wales with his private income, and that has, for centuries, belonged not to the Crown, but specifically to the heir apparent, whoever holds the title of Prince of Wales at any given time. That legal detail, which might seem dry and technical, would become enormously important more than 4 decades later. When Queen Elizabeth II died at Balmoral Castle on September 8, 2022, the constitutional machinery of succession moved with the precision it has operated by for centuries. Charles became king, and the moment he became king, he ceased to be the Duke of Cornwall. The Duchy of Cornwall, with its 135,000 acres spread across 23 counties, its urban properties in London's Kennington, its farmland in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, and yes, its connection to Highgrove, passed automatically to Prince William, who was confirmed as both the new Prince of Wales and the new Duke of Cornwall. This was not a gift from Charles to his son. It was not a decision that Charles made or could unmake. It was simply the law operating as it had operated for centuries. The duchy follows the heir. Full stop. What that meant for Highgrove was not immediately made public, and was, by all accounts, emotionally complicated for Charles. He had spent 40 years building something extraordinary at that estate. The gardens alone represented a personal investment of time, thought, and passion that went far beyond any financial calculation. In interviews over the years, Charles had spoken about Highgrove's grounds with obvious affection, describing them as a place where he had been able to express values about the natural world that he had devoted much of his adult life to promoting. Surrendering that, as kingship required, was never going to be simple. It was understood within royal circles, though never formally stated, that Charles hoped Highgrove would remain in the family's hands, that William would in time take genuine ownership of it and carry it forward, as Charles had shaped it from what it was into what it became. Meanwhile, the woman who had stood beside Charles through decades of public criticism, private loyalty, and one of the most scrutinized relationships in modern British history had completed her own remarkable journey. Camilla, once the most unpopular figure in British royal life in the eyes of a significant portion of the public, stood beside Charles at his coronation on May 6, 2023, and was crowned Queen Consort in Westminster Abbey. Her rehabilitation in public life had taken years and had required what many observers described as a carefully managed, long-term campaign. She had charmed the press, won over senior courtiers, and gradually shifted public opinion through a combination of warmth, humor, and a strategic management of her public image that those close to her frankly admire. But public rehabilitation and private trust are two different things. And within the royal family, there has always been a distinction, understood but rarely spoken, between accepting Camilla's presence and extending full confidence to the broader circle that her arrival brought with it. Her children from her first marriage, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez, occupy a genuinely unusual position in the British social landscape. They are not members of the royal family. They hold no royal titles, no official functions, no formal constitutional roles. And yet they move through a world that is defined by royal relationships, royal properties, and royal expectations. They attend royal events. They visit royal estates. They exist, as Tom himself has acknowledged in various interviews over the years, in a space that is neither fully inside nor fully outside the family's inner circle. Tom Parker Bowles has built a successful and well-regarded career as a food writer and critic. He is charming, well-connected, and by most accounts genuinely good company. His relationship with his mother's husband, with King Charles, has, by all public indications, been warm. Charles has known Tom since he was a child. He has watched him grow up, build his career, and navigate the extraordinary and often uncomfortable position that his mother's relationship with the heir to the throne created for him. There is real affection there, and it would be wrong to pretend otherwise or to paint Tom Parker Bowles as a cynical operator. He is not. But affection and authorization are not the same thing. And it is the question of authorization, specifically the authorization to access and use properties that belong to the Duchy of Cornwall under Prince William's stewardship, that sits at the heart of what has reportedly unfolded in recent months. The specific property in question is connected to the Highgrove estate. Reports that have circulated through royal watching circles, drawing on accounts from people described as being close to the relevant households, suggest that Tom Parker Bowles had, on multiple occasions and apparently with his mother's knowledge, visited and in at least one reported instance stayed overnight at a property associated with Highgrove, at times when neither King Charles nor Queen Camilla was present at the estate. The significance of this is not primarily about a single unauthorized visit. It is about what such visits represent in the context of the Duchy of Cornwall's legal structures and Prince William's role as its Duke. Under the Duchy of Cornwall Act and the centuries of legal precedent that underpin it, all properties associated with the Duchy belong to the Prince of Wales. They are managed by the Duke of Cornwall's office. Access to them, for guests who are not members of the royal family with established rights of residence, requires authorization from that office. It does not matter how closely connected a visitor is to the Queen. It does not matter how warmly the King regards their family. The legal structure is clear. and if access is being extended to individuals who have not been authorized by the Duke of Cornwall's office, particularly if that access is being arranged through another household without the Duke's knowledge. That is not a minor administrative oversight. It is a breach of the framework that governs one of the most significant private property portfolios in the United Kingdom. Prince William, according to credible accounts, learned of the situation through a combination of sources. Informal conversation, the kind that happens between trusted friends who know things and believe that someone in authority ought to know them too, reportedly brought initial concerns to his attention. Then, through the duchy's own administrative processes, documentation emerged that confirmed what had been suggested informally. A property usage review, of the kind that the duchy's estate management team conducts periodically as a matter of course, turned up records of an overnight stay that did not correspond to any authorized entry in the official visitor log. Staff communications associated with the stay identified the visitor as Tom Parker Bowles. When the estate management team sought clarification, specifically whether the visit had been authorized by the Duke of Cornwall's office, the response they received came not from that office, but from a member of the Queen's household, indicating that the arrangement had been made with the Queen's knowledge and did not require further attention. That response, however well-intentioned, was legally and procedurally wrong. The properties in question fall under William's authority, not the Queen's. And once the duchy's legal office was made aware of the exchange, the matter escalated beyond an administrative question into something that required William's direct involvement. By all accounts, and these accounts, it must be said, come from sources close to the people involved rather than from any official statement, William's response was measured and deliberate. Those who know him will consistently describe a man who does not react to difficult information with immediate confrontation. He assesses. He gathers information carefully. He ensures that what he believes he knows is actually what is happening before he decides what course of action is appropriate. He grew up watching what happens inside a royal family when emotion drives decisions instead of careful judgment. He saw the consequences of impulsive actions. Interviews given in pain, statements made in anger, private conflicts that became public spectacles. And he has spent his adult life doing his best to operate differently. He spoke to King Charles. The conversation between a father and his son, between a king and his heir, is private, and it would be wrong to claim certainty about precisely what was said. What is understood by those close enough to both men to have a sense of the exchange is that it was not a brief or easy conversation. It touched on property, on authority, on the question of what should and should not have happened, and on the delicate matter of what happens now. King Charles, by these accounts, did not dismiss the issue. He acknowledged that what had occurred had not been appropriate under the rules governing the duchy's properties. He acknowledged that William's authority over those properties was real and that it could not be bypassed, however informally, by arrangements made through another household, even his own. The outcome of these conversations was formal and clear. Through the Duchy of Cornwall's office, protocols governing access to properties under its management were formally clarified and reissued. The directive made explicit that all future arrangements for any visitor, under any circumstances, required prior authorization from the Duke of Cornwall's office. Additionally, a specific restriction was put in place regarding Tom Parker Bowles's access to Highgrove and its associated properties. This was not a public expulsion. There was no dramatic announcement. Tom was not barred from royal events at which the family gathers in official capacities, and his relationship with his mother continues as normal. But the door to the Highgrove estate, for purposes that had not been sanctioned by William's office, was formally closed. The restraint in how this was handled is itself revealing. William was not, it appears, looking to create a public scandal. He was not interested in humiliating Camilla or damaging his father's marriage at a time when his father's health remains a serious concern. He was not trying to relitigate the painful history of his parents' marriage or to use this situation as a proxy for older, deeper grievances. What he appears to have wanted, and what he achieved, was something far more specific, a clear, documented, formal affirmation that the estates he inherited as Duke of Cornwall are his to manage, that access to them is governed by rules and not by informal arrangements, and that those rules apply to everyone, regardless of their relationship to the Queen. That matters more than it might appear to. Prince William is acutely aware that he stands not just as an individual with property rights, but as the future King of England, the steward of an institution that has survived, sometimes barely, through centuries of exactly the kind of internal confusion and informal boundary crossing that this situation represents. The Duchy of Cornwall is not a loose collection of country houses available to those with the right connections. It is a legally structured, historically significant, financially substantial portfolio that will one day pass to his own children. Managing it with clarity and discipline is not pedantry. It is what responsible custodianship looks like. There's also, it is worth noting, a broader context that makes the question of royal property particularly charged at this moment in the monarchy's history. King Charles's health has cast a long shadow over the palace's internal life. He has continued to carry out public duties, but those close to the family acknowledge that his illness has created a kind of suspended uncertainty, a period during which questions about succession, inheritance, and the future shape of the monarchy have become impossible to ignore. In that environment, the management of royal estates is not a purely administrative matter. It is entangled with questions about who holds real authority, who can be trusted to exercise it responsibly, and what the monarchy will look like in the years ahead. William's handling of this matter is consistent with everything that can be observed about how he has prepared for his future role. He has worked carefully with the Duchy of Cornwall's legal and financial teams since inheriting the dukedom. He has taken seriously the scope and the responsibility of what he manages. Tens of millions of pounds in annual income, tens of thousands of acres of land, urban and rural properties alike, all carrying legal obligations and historical weight. He has been deliberate about ensuring that the structures governing that portfolio are clear and that the people around him understand that those structures will be respected. None of this makes the situation any less delicate on a human level. King Charles is a man in poor health who has known Tom Parker Bowles for most of Tom's life. Camilla is a woman who has sacrificed a great deal to occupy the position she now holds, and whose relationship with William has always been cautious rather than warm. The monarchy is a family as well as an institution, and the moments when those two things pull in opposite directions, when what the institution requires conflicts with what family feeling might prefer, are the moments that define both the individuals involved and the institution they serve. By every available account, Prince William navigated this particular conflict with the discipline and the precision that the situation required. He did not shout. He did not go to the press. He did not let the matter fester or pretend that it hadn't happened. He used the proper channels, made the necessary calls, had the necessary conversations, and ensured that the formal record reflected clearly what the rules are and what happened when they were not followed. The estates he inherited are not informal spaces. They are not places where personal connections substitute for proper authorization. They belong to the Duchy of Cornwall. They belong to him. And as the future King of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Prince William made sure, quietly but unmistakably, that everyone involved understood exactly that.